Alright, so once you have the dongle and you have the firmware updated, and if you needed to install drivers on it first, it's time to open up Simos Tools. If you haven't already downloaded it, you can download it from the Play Store. You can just search for Simos Tools, and I already have it, so I just open it up. Alright, so I'm going to try to connect to the adapter. Once you plug it into the car, it will automatically connect. Nothing special needed. So I already have the car sitting here running. You should be good to go right in, and you can play around with the logging screen. Right now I'm on the 3E high-speed logging. If your car does not have an ECU flash with Simos Tools with the logging patch applied, you won't have access to all of that. But we'll go through the settings and go over some of the different things. So mode 22 is what any car can log. Stock ECU, any of the aftermarket ECU tunes, doesn't matter. That will give you most of the PIDs that you really care about for the most part. Let's see here. We're not going to go through every single thing. Max logging rate is useful. I actually have mine slowed down to 25 hertz, which is still ridiculously fast, but you know, it'll record somewhere between 30 and 50 hertz. You know, that's basically 30 and 50 times per second. Log lead-in time, you can play around with how earlier before the log is triggered that it actually records. So if you want it to record a knock event, you could set this to be, you know, about 5,000 milliseconds, 5 seconds before it happens. And when that knock event happens, it automatically starts recording, even if you're not, you know, manually telling it to. And it also saves the 5 seconds prior to that happening. I tend to like about 3 seconds before and 4 seconds after. Under the logging output, I have it just going straight to my downloads folder. I have a Simos Tools log folder name. Under the CSVs, the CSV files are where all of the data comes that identifies what it is that you are logging. So for mode 22, mode 3E, if you're not on 3E, you don't even have to worry about it here. By default, I'm going to just hit reset, and when you reset one of these, it pulls from the app itself. I'm going to choose Bald Eagle units and load. And so we can look at the different PIDs that are available by going to the Mode 22 tab, and these are the things that we're able to log. Just pull something random here real quick. Under knock cylinder 1, you know, you've got addresses right here, how long the unit is. Basically, most of the stuff you do not need to worry about if you're just getting on here and just starting logging. What you can do is you can assign variables to these things. So, for instance, this one is knock A. We'll go back. Oops. We will go to, let's see, cruise control. So cruise reads anywhere from 0 to 1 as far as the gauge is set up it goes, and we have it assigned a variable name of cruise. So we'll save that. Now if you go under general and you want to choose your logging triggers, you can set, instead of pedal being more than 95%, you can set as cruise greater than 0. And what this will do, this will make it so that your cruise control button, anytime that you have it enabled, you know, you don't have to have cruise actually active, but if the little cruise icon is on your dash, then it will be recording. Alternatively, if you want to have multiple triggers set up, and I believe that this is how it's set up by default, you can use the little straight bar sign thing, whatever it is, and you can add another PID. So we'll put pedal, we'll do greater than, I like 95%. A lot of people set it at 70, but in my opinion, I sometimes trigger that, and I really don't want to. So that's how you can set your log triggers and how you can choose different items to use as triggers by assigning them variable names. Anytime that you have, let's try something right here, a common problem that people have, because some of the old PID lists, instead of the word cruise being used, it would just be C. It would be C greater than 0. If we hit save, go straight to logging, and I have my cruise control turned on right now, turned off, turned on, turned off. Oh, there it goes. Maybe it takes a second to update. So I have my cruise turned off right now. Let's see if it actually stops logging. It should stop logging after 5 seconds. 4 seconds. And it's not stopping logging. The typical problem that you'll have, we'll go ahead and close out, just so I can demonstrate, hopefully, how this works. When you open it up, I have my cruise control off right now. As soon as you go into logging, it starts logging, even though I do not have cruise control turned on right now. The reason why is because it has an incorrect variable name, and that screws it up. So we're going to come back and we're going to fix that. Change it to cruise greater than 0, and I'm just going to save it because that's what I'm going to do for now. Couple other quick things to go through. Gauge style, you can change, horizontal or vertical bars. Round gauges, you can choose whether the graduations are present or not on the gauge. Minimum and maximum, I like having those because you can see, the peak numbers. Different warning styles if it goes beyond a certain threshold, which we'll talk about in a later time. Some more options right here. You can also fiddle around with the colors of the gauges. I don't really ever screw with this stuff. And then the debug mode stuff. If there's an issue with the app, you can put it in debugging mode and you can save a debug log. I have not personally done that myself yet, but generally if there's an issue, you can post up in the Simos Tools user group on Facebook and someone will be able to help you out. Go through the Utilities tab now. This is a real quick and easy one. You can check DTCs. You can click, get DTCs. It'll check for engine and DSG DTCs. If you clear them, it will actually, from what I understand, clear all modules, not just the engine and trans modules. So that's kind of neat. You can go under adaptations. You can perform a wastegate adaptation, or you can perform a DSG adaptation. Works the same deal as if you have, VCDS hookup or something like that. Just makes this a heck of a lot faster to do it if you need to. You can click Get Info. We'll go ahead and get my ECU info, and you can see, you've got your file name, and there's a little bit of different block information. You can see under the VW spare part number, that is your ECU box code, and then the 0003 is the software version number. So that's stuff that you'll need if you want to get into tuning, which will get covered at a later time. So we'll go back and we will go into the logging view now. Oh, and something I forgot. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, there's always a delay when you have the log triggers doing goofy stuff, like when I intentionally messed it up. So we are on, let's see, I'm going to put it on mode 22 because that's what most people are going to see. I have a DSG, so I'm going to check that box. I do not have a Haldex, so I can't really comment much on that aspect of things. But go into logging, and this is going to be the default stuff. And you can see that, it's got warnings and stuff set. I generally prefer to have them set a little bit higher. I'll show you how to change that in just a minute, but just kind of getting familiar with some of these different tabs. These are some of the default tabs and stuff. And I believe the reason for some of these temperatures going nuts under the American units is because the temperatures, like the formulas, are correct, but the gauge thresholds were not changed. So let's take a look at that. We'll fix this right now. We'll go into settings, mode 22. Some of our stuff that was doing it was ambient temperature. So we can see the gauge max was only 50 degrees. If we're reading in Fahrenheit, we probably want the ambient temp to go up to like at least 120 or so to be safe. Minimum, I'm not ever going to see negative 40 degrees here in Virginia. At least I hope not. So we'll just set that at 0. Minimum warning, I'll leave that at negative 30. For the warning max, I really don't care what it reads. I'm just going to put like 200 degrees. We don't want that coming on because ambient temperature is what it is. So we will minimize that. Oh wait, what did I do? I just moved the order of that thing. So click the little 3 dots to collapse that again. Now we'll go to the intake air temp. That was the other one that was going nuts. I typically set my warnings at like 160, pretty high. I like to have my gauge read up to about 160. And I will set my gauge minimum to 0. That'll put 80 degrees at like the in the middle of the gauge. Warning minimum, I don't really care about a warning minimum, so again, that'll stay like that. We can collapse that. And the other one was the engine coolant temperature that was going nuts. So, where is that coolant temp? Alright, yeah, so the warning on this one was set to 130 degrees. So we will go back, and I will set that to 240. I'll set it to 235. It's about the time you want to really start looking at it. Gauge max, I'll put 250. Gauge minimum, we'll just put, let's say, 150. That way it reads halfway when it's under like typical normal temperatures. Don't care about a minimum warning. Alright, so we are good to go there. So if we hit save, hopefully that all worked right and this video was not for nothing. Perfect. So now our intake air temp is not going nuts. Go under, there's something warning down here. Oil temperature is another one we'll have to correct, so we'll come back for that. Yeah, I think that's the oil temp one here as well. Yep. Alright, so we got one more we're going to take care of. But we can see that our ambient temperature and our coolant temperatures are fine. So we will go back into settings, mode 22, because that was the list we were editing. And we will go to oil temp. And warning max, I will put 270. Gauge max, I will do 275. Gauge minimum, we will just do, I don't know, let's say 150. And we will save it, go back to logging, and we are good to go now. So we got all of our stuff reading normal. We don't have any weird flashing stuff going on. Let's see here. We'll go back. That should pretty much cover, basic function as far as using the app itself. I will show you real quick how to go in, and if you modify a CSV, you can export it, so this mode 22 CSV that I just messed with, we can actually export it and we can save it. So when you export it, it is important to make sure you save it as something legible, so we'll call it mode 22.csv. It is important to have that file extension because, especially if you're saving it to the Google Drive, if you save it as with no extension, it saves as a miscellaneous document, and then you actually have to remove it from the Google Drive and put it on like your PC or something, change the extension there, and then re-upload it to the Google Drive. It's a big pain in the ass to do. So we will save that. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and I'll reset my CSV. I don't even care, I'll just put it into metric and hit save. So now I'm looking at a metric CSV. You know, we're logging stuff in Celsius. So if you want to import that log list, go to Settings, down here, Mode 22, Import, and then we will grab that file that I just made, and it did it anyways. Alright, so this is an issue that I've run into specifically with the Google Drive. It does pertain to what I just mentioned, but essentially what I've had to do is I remove it from the Google Drive, open it up in Excel on my laptop, and then save it as a CSV back into here. What I will do is, because I do have other CSVs in here, I will load this mode 22 CSV right here that I've previously made. I hit success, so I hit save. It is important to hit save after every time, but now we can go into logging. And this CSV, I actually have some custom tabs and stuff set up. So I have a track tab. There's like all the temperatures and stuff that I like to keep track of while I'm on track with the car. Got coolant outlet temp. That's another neat thing I've been logging. But you can see coolant temps, bunch of temperatures, knock, and boost, basically. I will show you real briefly, you can't really add tabs easily. Well, actually, you can add tabs, but you can't add parameters easily. And I typically find it better to do this when you are on a laptop and looking at the entire CSV file in Excel or something. But say you want to add something to the track tab. So if we look right here, this coolant temperature is going to show up both on the miscellaneous tab and on the track tab. The period separating the two of them signifies that you're, also another tab. Now, right here, we have the little vertical line and a 1. What that signifies is placement within that tab. So track 1, we will go back, logging, track. You'll notice that coolant temperature is actually in the second spot. That's because it's a computer thing. The number 1 spot is the top right. The number 0 spot is where IAT is right now. So it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on a pane of 8, parameters. So that's something to be aware of, and you can change things like that. So we'll go into mode 22, and let's add cruise to our track tab just because we can. So I'll just put track, and I believe that I do have everything in there already assigned to specific spots, so I'm just going to put track. I'm not going to put, the 5th spot or whatever, because I believe it's going to interfere with other things that are already commanded to be there. But this is how you would set it up if you wanted to show up on the track tab in the, I say 5th spot, but it's actually going to be the 6th spot, because 0 is actually the first one. So we'll save that as track. Oops. save. Then if we go back to the track tab, we now have cruise control showing up. So that's how you can control what things go on which tabs and how you can move them around. I will say that I have had a few issues with when trying to specifically name which things go where. It does not always cooperate 100%, and it takes looking very, very closely at the CSV file to really get things organized and sorted. And I typically come in, I'll set it up in the CSV file on the computer, and then I will, import it into Simos tools, and then I might come back and fiddle with it, going back and forth in the settings and screwing around with things one at a time. So that's how it works. Everything that I did with the DSG or everything that I did with the ECU in mode 22, same exact stuff applies to the mode DSG and the mode 3E. If you are running multiple logging lists, meaning you're logging mode 22 and you're logging DSG, or you're logging DSG Haldex and mode 22 or mode 3E, whichever, you're logging three things. You definitely need to make sure that all three CSVs jive with each other if they're all trying to be put in the exact same spots. So I think that about covers it. It took a little bit longer than I was hoping. I'll be doing another video on more advanced features and modifying CSVs and looking for new parameters outside of being within the app, and it'll be more computer based. So hopefully this helps. Let me know.